Hello, and welcome to today's Data Dynamics Platform 3x3 series. I'm your host, Kyle Johnson, Director of Digital Experience here at Data Dynamics, and joining me today is our Chief Strategy Officer, Cuong to discuss cloud computing challenges and opportunities in the healthcare industry. Hi, Cuong, how are you today?
Kyle, I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing today?
Wonderful, thank you so much for asking. Well, let's get kicked right into it with some of our top questions. And the first up is the COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated the adoption of cloud in many industries, especially the very much affected healthcare industry. What are the three most important factors that healthcare enterprises must take into account while migrating their infrastructure into the cloud?
Yeah, excellent question, Kyle. I've seen this quite a bit with a number of our healthcare customers. And really what it comes down to is, the first is you have to regulate the use and disclosure of protected health information. That's really critical, is making sure that you take care of your protected health information, followed by making sure that you protect sensitive personal and health information of your patients, as well as of your employees. And then, of course, the first two aspects here can be achieved through data governance. And you require that data governance in order to be able to drive HIPAA compliance.
Very true, and something that I think each healthcare company would need to take into account all across the board. Cuong, as you mentioned before, HIPAA compliance is mandatory for healthcare organizations. What are the consequences of migrating data to the cloud if they aren't doing those first steps to ensure HIPAA compliance all across the journey?
So the fines for non-compliance can be rather large. So non-compliance repercussions, HIPAA fines, for example, is tiered based on the severity of the violation and the facility's knowledge of the non-compliance. The largest fine ever paid in a HIPAA settlement was $5.5 million after Advocate Health System suffered 3 data breaches that comprised the privacy of 4 million patients. The next is that if a HIPAA breach can be attributed to an individual, that individual is at risk for termination of employment. And then, of course, the third and the most critical is the reputation of the healthcare enterprise. You don't want to be that healthcare company that's made an example of as not taking care of your patient's data.
That's a great point. Something to keep in mind too. I mean, we hear the stories about the monetary costs, but the reputational risk involved in not ensuring that HIPAA compliance at every step of the data journey is something that I don't think we talk enough about. All right, last question, Cuong. What, in your opinion, is an optimum route towards cloud migration while ensuring HIPAA compliance? So can you give us an example of a successful migration journey that you've seen in your time working at Data Dynamics?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first, the most critical thing is to understand the data that you have. One of the big challenges that many of our customers and clients have is that they don't know their data. They don't know what's in that data. Many of it's just a repository for a set of data that could be everything from from patient case studies. It could be from various different types of medical exams. It could be insurance information. It could be departmental information. It could be the menu from your local restaurant. It could be a number of these types of things. Or, it could also be things such as people taking backups of what's on their laptops and their hard drives. So the first is really understanding your data. So I would say that's a prerequisite, because once you know what your data is, then you can classify it, you can determine how you want to go ahead and disposition it. Now, once you've done that, some of the key use cases you can do with the cloud is first, using it as a data sharing repository. So many times what you want to do is you want to take your clinical trials, or you want to take various types of information such as genomic sequencing or various other types of data that you capture from your health systems, and then be able to put it in a place where you can share it, a repository. And being able to create that data sharing repository, the cloud is perfect for that. It gives you low cost storage, it gives you the ability to be able to access it, and you can share that data access within your company, but also to external third parties and various others who have a right to be able to access it. This is why understanding that data and understanding the regulations with that data is so important to determine who can access and who shouldn't be able to access, and be able to place that up there. The second is, when you have that data up there, it gives you the capacity to be able to do a lot more AI and machine learning, a lot more applications that can be available that your traditional IT or your data centers might not be able to do, because now you have all the resources of the cloud. And so in order to be able to do that and take advantage of that, you have to enrich your data. And enriching the data means that as you understand the data and knowledge about the data, adding some additional context around that data so that you can go and pull the data from the library that you wanted to go do deeper analysis with. And that's going to be very important, being able to do that efficiently. And the cloud gives you that type of capability with a bubble capacity, but that only works if you augment your data and enhance it with additional information and classification. And then the third is that as healthcare has been growing and as the number of patients have been growing, the amount of data that's being captured is growing, it's becoming increasingly difficult for a lot of healthcare enterprises to be able to manage the costs, be able to get all the people and the resources required, build all the data centers that they need. And so one of the things that the cloud provides is that space where they can do data center consolidations, or be able to do other types of things in order to be able to leverage additional capacity out there. But the challenge with doing that is that conceptually it sounds great, but if you don't have control over your data, it creates too much risk, in terms of migrating the data to the cloud. And that's why, you always have to get back to really knowing your data, understanding it, and being able to classify and determine the level of risk of that data before putting it out there.
That makes sense. It sounds like there's a lot of challenges, but also a lot of opportunity for healthcare companies when it comes to cloud computing and making those steps towards experiencing their or enhancing their data in the cloud journey.
Absolutely, Kyle. I would say like the thing that a lot of companies are going to have to be thinking about is, and yesterday's paradigm is about the shared nothing paradigm. It was about creating silos of data. It was about each lab would have its own data, each office would have its own data, the hospital would have its own data, the pharmaceutical companies would have its own, and they were all siloed and disparate. The future is all around sharing of data and being able to have that data, be able to collaborate. What prevents that future from happening is the ability to be able to understand and know that data and then be able to drive that compliance within a data sharing environment.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Cuong, for your time today. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next one.